Hello, board game fans. So I've had a few requests to see a playthrough of this game. While that is patently impossible because of physics, it's a really long game. What I do want to try and show you is setting up a game and the first few rounds, and the basic gameplay. I am going to miss stuff. The idea here is to get you a taste, an aperitif. And then maybe one day when I have a whole day to sit down and record stuff, I can do like a 3-hour talking you through the chunky bits of the rules. So just to get you acquainted with what we're looking at here, up top we have the reputation tracker. That tracks your town's reputation in the context of the greater area around it. The important thing to understand with these vertical lines is that as your reputation increases or decreases, every time you cross a solid line, so say I go up from 0 to 1, I'll cross a solid line, so I'll gain a population. That's an immigrant to the town. Similarly, if I then go down from 1 to 0, that's crossing a solid line, I will lose a population. They will emigrate. So reputation is important because it's tied to population. And population is important for many reasons, but the main one is that they allow your buildings to function. So you want to gain reputation because that gains you population, and you really want to avoid dumping a lot of reputation because everyone will emigrate, and then none of your buildings will function because they won't have people in them. Cool, so that's what that does. Here is the play area. I'll try and somewhat briefly talk you through all the bits. First off is terrain itself. This grassy stuff is field. You can build in it. If you build in it, you get the chance to take another action, which is cool. It's tempo, it's really valuable. Trees give you a discount on wood for the structure you build. This accurately simulates not having to carry the wood as far. Stone is a similar story. If you build in stone, you get a stone discount on those buildings. Then the other important thing about these two types is that wood and stone are the two major building resources in the game, right? So you need them. And the only way you can gather them is by building specific buildings in wooded areas or rocky areas. So you've got a lumber mill that you really want to put in a forest, and you've got a quarry, that's what it's called, that you really want to put on rocks. So access to these two types of terrain is really important. Then down here we've got some crag. Crag is like impossible, right? It's like this does not exist. You can't use it. So that's kind of like a hard blocker, and that's to have room in the map design to just block off areas, make them inaccessible. This is the very easiest beginner map, so it doesn't have a lot of this nasty stuff. It's easy to get you started. Okay, what else is going on here? We've got roads. This is a road that runs out of the center and down here. Roads let you connect buildings more easily, which we'll touch on when I talk about distance in a second. But they're valuable, and this starter map is covered with free roads, so that's a cool thing. This little dude here is called a gem. Gems give you cash, gold specifically, the most valuable material resource, when you build on them for the first time. So that's 1 or 2 gold sitting there, and there, and there, and there. Yeah, so you want to grab those if you can, but it's up to you how much you want to sacrifice your building layout plans for that. This is a lore stone. When you build on it, you will get knowledge. No, you will get a slightly bigger building. Your building will increase in size by 1 for free. Very cool. What have I forgotten? Something critical, no doubt. This is called a blocker. What this dude does is it blocks you in exactly the same way as a crag. Like you can't use this terrain, or this terrain, or this terrain. Again, it's not very impactful on this map, but on other maps it is. And the cool thing about blocker is that you can remove it with a late game building. Cool. So that's very roughly what the map is all about. And then down here we have the round tracker. You will start at round somewhere around here, 1 to 9, and then you will cross off rounds 1 by 1 as you play through them. At the end of 100 rounds, you finish the game. And that is why it's a 6-hour game. Like, that's a lot of rounds. in case you haven't read the marketing materials, you're not supposed to sit and play this for 6 hours. You're supposed to play it for 1 hour and then go and play with your dog and talk to your spouse and solve world hunger. Yeah, you know, it's bite-sized chunks of a longer game. Somebody sent me a mail calling it, well, drawing a comparison to a legacy game. I'm not going to call this the next Pandemic, just the mechanism of playing a longer game in shorter chunks. It quite accurately describes what a game of Penciltown is like, because you'll play it over maybe a week, you know? So you will have this ongoing investment, or even 3 weeks if you're not playing every night. Anyway, more bits. This is space for the name of your town, not optional. The objective that you roll on the table full of objectives, and the mods that you roll on the table full of mods. The objective is what you need to do to win the game, and the modifiers make the game easier or harder based on stuff. And then this is the magic box that makes the whole economic engine of this thing work. Wood, stone, food, gold. Those are the material resources. People, military, horses, clerics, logicians. Those are the human resources, or, you know, humans. And what happens here and here is we write down rate of change stuff. So, for example, if a 2 appears here, that means we're getting an income of 2 wood. And all that means is that every time there's an economy phase, we get 2 wood. It just appears. So the whole point of this is that you improve your income sources, much like any real-time strategy game. And then you gain these resources at a better rate, and then you can do more stuff with them. I'll show you how they're stored in a sec. But that's how the economy area works. And maybe we get a 1 there, and that means we're losing a stone every round. Maybe we get a 2 there. That means we're losing 2 food every round. I hope we can afford that, etc. So stuff that appears on the left of these, you line it up with the letter it's next to. So that means I'm gaining 2 wood every round. That means I'm losing 1 stone. That means I'm losing 2 food every round. Makes sense, I hope. And then the R down here is reputation, that thing at the top. The implication, of course, being that you can gain reputation with effects over time, which is pretty cool. Just get rid of these scribbles. Alrighty then. This notes area is really important because a lot of stuff needs you to kind of handwrite notes for what's going on with it. But that's more late game, so I doubt we will get to that in this video. Cool, so let's set up a game. I'm going to go through the manual setup process step by step and quite slowly, so hopefully it's not too confusing. Cool, step 1 is to select a difficulty. I'm going to select difficulty 5, so I'm going to cross off all the rounds before 5 to pretend that they've already happened, right? So we're going to start there on round 5. That means we get fewer rounds in the whole game, and that's what makes it harder, because you need rounds to do stuff in this game. You need time, you need, yeah. There's an opportunity cost in losing those 4 rounds, but there's another thing, which we'll get to in a sec. So I've crossed off the 4 rounds. I must mark my reputation at 0, because that is where it starts. We need a name. This is always the hardest part. New Penciltopia. Solid. Now we need an objective. So let me find the objective table and roll 1. This is a d6, d6. That's a 4. That's a 1. So that is beat 6 quests and gain 22 gold over the course of the game. Easy peasy. 6 quests, 22 gold gained. So I'm going to write in the margin here a little tracker, and I will tally here how much gold I gain. because I need to keep track of that, because there is no computer to do it for us. And then hopefully by the end of the game, I have grabbed 22 chunks of gold and also finished 6 quests. And then modifiers are a little bit spicy. Because we're on difficulty 5, I roll 1 positive and 1 negative. If you're playing an easier game in this 1 to 3 zone, you get to roll 2 positive modifiers. And if you're playing a harder game in the 7 to 9 zone, you have to roll 2 negative modifiers. So here in the middle, it's a half-half. So I'll roll 1 good modifier and 1 bad modifier. Where did I put you? Table. Cool. Positive first. 1, 2. Quarry stone gain increased by 1. Quarry S plus 1. So that's great. That modifier means that our quarry will produce stone faster, and that's awesome. Stone is quite a bit harder to get than wood. Now let's roll our negative modifier. 1 and a 3. Okay, so that's farm food income decreased. Farm F minus 1. So our farm is going to be a little worse at producing food. So that's a bummer, but I'm sure we can deal with it. Cool. What is next on the magic setup list thing? Okay, we're ready to draw our town center. So the town center is the first building you get. You build the smallest town center, the size 1 town center, for free at the start of the game, and you get to put some cool stuff in it. But really the most important decision now is where to put it. I've spoken about this and this. We need access to these things. They're very important. So we need to find a spot that gives us access to both of these things. Fortunately, this map is set up in such a way to make that super easy. The town center has a 6x6 footprint, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. I was looking prefer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Habiter. Yeah, I think that works. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna put it. When you build buildings, you can of course rotate, or I don't know about mirroring. Checking the rules, but you can rotate them to try and fit stuff together. Tetris it real good. Tetris is a registered trademark, and I'm not trying to make money off it. So let's put the thing over there. Can you tell that I'm an artist? I'm gonna cut this probably. Just trim it real good. Okay, and let's drop a door there. This isn't optional, by the way. I'm just copying what it looks like off. This reference. Cool. So that's a town center. And now we need to put stuff in it. What shall we put in it? There's no option here. I'm just reading. It's 2 wood, 5 food, and 4 people. So we're gonna put a woods there. And 5 foods. That's decent. And 4 peoples. Cool beans. So it is the dubious honor of the town center to be able to store a bunch of stuff. It can store these 4 things: wood, stone, food, and gold, but also people. This is like pretty exceptional. So it it functions as kind of like an important swap space for, at least initially, that you can throw excess resources in, throw excess people in, and they're all happy because they have a roof over their head. Cool, so we've got those down. This is really important. That's a 1, by the way. That 1 lets us refer to buildings. So there are a lot of mechanics that need to target buildings, and the only way for the game to do that is if you're numbering them as you build them. So the town center is building 1. For example, if somebody attacks, you might roll to select a building that is attacked. The only way that that can happen is if you number them. Ooh, sorry. Cool, we have a numbered town center. Okay. Now let's look once again at what that town center provides. Oh, I hope that's in frame. Cool. So the town center is a weird one because it has 6 sizes. Other buildings have 1 or 3 sizes, so it's kind of laid out like this. So that applies to all sizes of it, and these things apply based on which size you've got built at the moment. So this is our town center 1. It's free, that's cool. And its production capability is that it produces a person, if we roll 6 with the economy roll. So what the economy roll is will become clear in a sec, but that's cool, because that's how we get more people at the moment. I mean, 6 is a tricky roll, but if we get it, awesome. Tier 1 buildings available. That means that these dudes, the Tier 1 structures, are now available to build, which is awesome. There's another important thing here. The build range is 4. That means we can build up to 4 tiles away from these doorways. I'll show you that as we build buildings, but it's an important concept to keep track of. As the town center improves, the build range improves, so your town gets to sprawl. And then here's the stores, people and resources, allows construction nearby, but this is what I wanted to get at. This underlined thing is the upkeep cost. So the town center has a built-in upkeep cost, and that is you need to feed your people, which is pretty reasonable, I think. Feeding them consumes a food per 2 people who live in the town center. So if you've got 2 people in the town center, that's just 1 food every round. But if you've got 4 people in the town center, that's 2 food every round. If you've got 5 people in the town center, even though there's only 1 extra over 4, that costs a whole 3 food every round. So as your population grows, their food demands increase quite dramatically. Cool, so now we know what the town center does. We can scribble on our economy area, which lets us keep track of these things. So I believe it is on 6. So that on 6, unlike a flat 2, which would just give us 2 wood every round, that requires the economy roll to be a 6. If it's a 4, you don't get the P. If it's a 5, you don't get the P. But if it's a 6, you do get the P. And then over here, I'm just going to write homeless. Not really going to get into how that works right now, but it's an upkeep effect you need to keep track of if you're not able to house everyone. And then the food per 2p in TC. So that's wordy because it's explaining that A, it's only for each 2 people, so it's not a food per person, and B, that it only applies to people in the town center. You get houses, and then you don't have to feed the people in houses because they eat each other or feed each other, I don't know. Cool, so you can see how the economic thing is starting to build up. We have income and we have outgoing things, but we're going to add more as we build buildings. Cool, so now what we need to do is play the game. If we get to round 100 and we've gone on 6 quests, or sorry, I think that's succeeded at 6 quests, and gain 22 gold, then we win the game, the whole game, forever. Cool, so let's start playing the game. How does that work? I'm gonna tell you. I'm going to be using the quick reference here, and I really encourage you to do this too. If you just look at the back of your manual, there is a quick reference that walks you through every step of the game, and it really makes learning how the flow works a lot simpler than trying to page through the rules for everything. It condenses the whole engine to a single A4 page. So let us begin. Step 1 is called event. The event step is mandatory, you have to do it. So what does the event step entail? Well, all you got to do is cross off a round, right? We've crossed off 5. Now we're going to make a couple of rolls. The first is to see whether an event happens, and if it does, what kind of event happens. Cool. So that is a 1, because I'm reducing the d6 to a d3 here, and a 1 means that no event happens. So I'll stop there. We'll see an event later. That is the event step finished. Cool. Step 2 is economy. This is mandatory, just like the event step. Basically, all this means is you have to go through your economy engine and apply everything, right? So you ignore all the empty rows, and then you apply whatever needs to be applied at the non-empty rows. So you do it from top to bottom. So I get down to food, and I see that I need to lose a food per 2 people in the town center. There's 4 people, so I need to lose 2 food, right? 1 food per 2 people. Pretty straightforward. So I'm just gonna erase, no, not people. Dear God, I'm so sorry, people. Here, you're fine, you're fine. I'm going to erase 2 food. And I'm gonna feel good that my people are fed and not hungry. Then we go down from food to P. Cool. So on 6. The way that the economy step works is that you roll a single d6 once for the entire economy step. You'll get more effects which work like this that require a specific roll. But you don't roll a different die for each of the effects. You just roll 1 die and you use that single result for the entire economy step. So I should have rolled it at the start, but it doesn't really matter. Now we get to a result that needs a die roll. I didn't roll a 6, so I don't produce people. Bummer. Homeless doesn't impact because there are no homeless people. Cool, that is the economy step done. We are now on to the action step. The action step is really where the magic happens. There's a lot of options here. The important ones at the moment are construct, which lets you build a building, and scavenge, which lets you get resources basically for free. Like, it costs you an action, but you can get resources. Obviously, we're kind of in a dire situation, right? We're going to run out of food in a turn and a half. We have 2 wood, so we need resources to be able to do more stuff, or we need to get some buildings down. So let's just look at the buildings we have available to us. Shibbity shibbity boop. Aha. Aha. Ooh. Oh, look at those buildings. So because our town center is of size 1, we can only use tier 1 buildings, just the small dudes, right? So basically we're looking at these 4, because you'll see under the wooden fence that it requires a lumber mill. We don't have a lumber mill yet. So let's just leave that out for now and look at these 4. The building listing shows you what it costs at each of the 3 sizes. So we could build a size 1 forager's hut, and that would just be the dark outline you see there, and it would cost 2 wood, and it would produce 2 food. Make sense? The cost is on the left, and the productive capability is on the right. And it's the solid line in the little blueprint thingy. Then if we wanted to make more food, we could build it at size 2. That would cost 5 wood, but would produce more food. Or we could build it at size 3 at the cost of 7 wood and a stone, and it would produce 4 food. So it gets better as you build a bigger one. Pretty cool. This one has a requirement. All tiles must be on field terrain to produce. So the forager's hut needs to be built on a field. Cool. So the barracks lets us fight off enemies. Probably we're not going to worry about that for now. Let's say that these are the things we want to decide between. So let's ignore the higher size buildings because they're definitely going to be too expensive for us at the moment. And let's just compare the very smallest size 1 versions of each building. We've got a forager's hut that costs 2 wood but produces 2 food. So that solves our food problem, right? We will feed all of our people, which is pretty cool. We've got a house that costs 6 wood, but people in houses don't count towards town center food upkeep. So that kind of also solves our food problem. Pretty cool, as long as we can move our people into the house. And then we've got a lumber mill. All of these things cost wood to build. We've got 2 wood there, 6 wood there, 5 wood there. This is all a little ridiculous if we don't have wood to build with. Well, the lumber mill is great because it produces wood. We drop it for 5 wood and we get a wood every round, like clockwork for free. You'll notice here that it says at least half rounded up of the tiles must be on woods terrain to produce. Fair enough, so we have to build it in the woods. If all of the tiles are on woods terrain, production is plus W. So that means we get 2 wood every round if we manage to get the entire size 1 footprint inside the forest. So what do we do? This is where it starts to become a strategy game. You can kind of do whatever you like because the simulation, the engine is very open-ended and you can make bad decisions and paint yourself into a corner. But let's make reasonable decisions. I like to go for the turn 1 hut. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's think through what it involves to build this thing. You can see the footprint. So that's at size 2, it'll expand to be a 1x2. And then at size 3, it'll expand to be a little, an L-shaped thing. But we're not worried about those. So the size 1 one will just be a little 1x1 square. So that's really convenient because it's easy to fit it in wherever you need to in your layout of your town. So let's think about where we'd like to put it. Just a reminder, we're still on step 3 action, and I'm choosing to use construct as the action to build a building. It needs to be on field. Okay, fair enough. But we probably don't want to use up the forest or the rocks because that's where we want to put our lumber mill and our quarry later on. And we also want it to be out of the way so it's not blocking future expansionist possibilities. Where can we build it, just to start with? Well, you might remember that the build range on a size 1 town center is 4. So counting from either doorway, you count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could put it there because that would be 4 away from that doorway. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I could put it there because that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 away from that doorway. You can count along roads for free when it comes to distance. So I could just count all the way down to here for 0. So from that doorway, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put it here if I wanted to. That's the power of roads. So you can see there's a lot of possibilities, especially in this beginner map. For the sake of simplicity and keeping everything in the frame of the shot, I'm going to put it snug up against the building here. So I'm going to put it there. But I need to go through the construct process step by step. Oop. Cool. So I've selected a size 1 forager's hut. I want to put it there, so that's definitely 1, 2, 3 in build range. It's not blocking any doors, it's not overlapping anything. There is no prerequisite to check. Its tier is less than or equal to the town center size. It's a tier 1 building and we've got a size 1 town center. For example, I can't build any tier 2 buildings, so that's why I'm checking that. Now it's time to learn why people are so important. For each person, you get a functioning building and also the opportunity to build a building. So right now we have 4 people. That means my town stops at 4 buildings. As soon as I build the 4th building, I can't build any more buildings and I have to focus on attracting more people. You can think of it as like the person working at that building and making it function. But it's also a construct constraint. You can't build a building without a free person to work in it. So as soon as I get to 4 buildings, assuming I don't get any more people, I'll be kind of stuck, you know? I won't be able to expand the town. So growing your population is really, really important in this game. Not already present. All buildings in this game are unique. You can only have one. The exceptions are house, depot, and outposts, which you can read about. Those, you can have 2 of each because they perform very core functions that you need a little more granularity with. And inside the perimeter defense. So we don't have one yet, but basically when you get to the point where you've built a perimeter defense around your town, you need to make sure that structures fall inside that perimeter defense. Cool. So I'm happy that all of those are fulfilled. First, we lose the resources, which in this case is 2 wood. Wood and wood. And then I wanted to build it here. And I must number it, because numbering is how the whole thing works. Cool. Add economy effects. The economy effect here is just a very simple and pleasant 2 on the left of food. So that means every time we get to the food step in economy, we'll just gain 2. Very nice. Add range effects. There are no range effects, I think. Let me just double check. No. How pleasant. How lovely. Oh, and remember, of course, that the forager's hut needs to be on field to produce. So it is on field, so that's fine. But if I'd built it, for example, there, it wouldn't have done anything. Okay, so we're nearly done with the construct action. The benefit of field terrain is that you get to roll for a chance at another action. Sounds pretty cool, so I'm gonna do that. No. Fail. So we don't get a free additional action, but that's fine. Cool, so now we've got our 2 buildings up. That was step 3. For context, we're still on round 5 here. That was step 3, which was action. Let's move on to step 4, which is called logistics. Logistics lets you move stuff around. For example, you can move homeless people into the town center, you can move people into houses, you can move resources between your town center and other buildings that store resources like depots. It's really useful, but it limits the rate at which you can do these things. So you get 2 logistics actions for free every round. I don't need to move anything around, so I'm just gonna skip the logistics step. So to summarize those 4 steps, we had event, which gave us the chance of an event happening. Nothing happened. We have economy, which was really underwhelming. We lost some food and we didn't get another person. We have action, which was pretty cool. We built a forager's hut. And we have logistics, which we skipped because it wasn't really relevant to our needs. And that is a round of Penciltown. So hopefully you're starting to get some idea about how the systems work. Let me just check on the video. Yeah, cool. So, what can we do but keep going? Yeah, so that is the entirety of Penciltown. Obviously, the things that you can do get more interesting. I'm just going to run you through the list of what happens during action. You can construct, like we did. You can upgrade, which means making a building bigger by 1 size, so you can take your existing buildings and make them a little chunkier. You can repair. Buildings can get damaged by attacks most often, and then they stop performing their vital function, so you can spend some money to fix them, and then they become good contributing citizens again. You can demolish, which is a more niche use case, but you can get rid of a building, and that frees up the person working in it. So sometimes it's really useful to say, I don't need that building as much as I need this new building, so I'm just going to demolish an old building. You can scavenge, which I talked about. That's getting free resources, but it's unreliable. We'll probably do that soon. You can quest, which is really juicy, but we're not going to get to it because it requires a lot of support infrastructure, a lot of late game structures. But that involves sending your adventurers off. It's basically a mini push your luck game where you have to have a lot of logistics in place, infrastructure in place to support your adventurers. And then you play a push your luck game with consecutive rolls, and then you risk the health of your adventurers against the the chance of getting the reward at the end of the quest. And then there's special. A lot of the later buildings have cool specials. For example, a wizard's tower can cast spells, and the spells are really wild and they do cool stuff. So once you have a wizard's tower down, you can use your action to cast a spell that'll do something. Yeah, so that gives you a bit of a taste of the ways the game opens up past the early rounds. Also, I should point out that I'm playing this slow intentionally. While it is a long game, it isn't a super crazy long game. You can get through the first round like I did in pretty much 2 minutes when you're at the point that you're comfortable with the game. So while your first playthrough or 2 or 3 will be halting and you'll have to look stuff up, it gets to the point where you're very smoothly sort of rolling and going through steps. And yeah, cool. So let's play another round. It is now round 6. We are back to event. Do we get an event? Oh, yes, we do. The world intrudes. So the way that event rolling works is you roll 2d6, and then you add the current round number. And what that means is that you're going to move along on the giant table of events. You won't be re-rolling the same events. Good thing to note here is that if you do re-roll an event in the same game, you just roll again. You're not allowed to have the same event happen twice. Cool, so we are in round 6, and we roll. This is about as maths heavy as the game gets, by the way. You have to add sometimes 2-digit numbers to 1-digit numbers. 6 plus 8 is another number. Could it be 14? Yes, I think it is. And the first roll told us that it was the world intrudes. So let's see what happens when the world intrudes on 14. Chef to chef, chef to chef. Ooh, a traveling band asks to use your workshop. If you agree, which requires a lumber mill, do some cool stuff. We don't have a lumber mill, so I cannot, unfortunately, help the traveling band. Decline, nothing happens. So there's no penalty here for not having a lumber mill, so that's pretty cool. But it's a bit of a downer because I could have gotten a bunch of free wood if I'd had a lumber mill available. Okay, so that event is no longer available this game. And that is the event phase. You roll an event and it gives you an option or a choice, or maybe not a choice, just a pleasant or horrible thing, and it affects the course of your game in some unpredictable way. Cool. It's now economy. Let's go through again from top to bottom. We gain 2 food, but we must lose a food per 2 people in the town center. We know we have 4, so that's 2 food to lose. When you have a gain and a lose effect in the same row, you don't do that, then do that. You just figure out the net and then add or subtract it. So the net here, gain 2, lose 2, the net is 0, so I don't actually have to do anything. So I'm basically just going to scan past that. And then down here to P, okay, we need to roll here, and still homeless is not an issue. That is not a 6, so we don't get a person. People are tricky to get. Cool, that was the whole economy step. Let's check out action. Okay, so I feel good about this forager's hut because we basically can stop worrying about food now. We will sit at 3 until we get another person because of the 2 income we have from our forager's hut. So we can stop worrying about food. But wood is becoming an issue. I would like to expand the village. And the only way we're going to do it is if we have a reliable wood source, and that is a lumber mill. So I really want to get a lumber mill out. Unfortunately, a size 1 lumber mill costs 5 wood. So we need 5 wood, basically. The only way to get a resource you don't have, if you can't afford to build the building that produces it, is to scavenge. So this is pretty cool. The way that scavenge works is that first you choose what resource you want to scavenge. So I declare I'm scavenging for wood, and then you roll 2d6. And you hope. Very average. Okay, we got a 7. Now let's look at the scavenge table. I think I have hidden it. No, there it is. Hopefully that is somewhat legible. Cool. So I look in the wood column, and I look at 7. Ooh, that is some wood. Fantastic. As you can see, there are some really nasty potential happenings here. And as you go to stone, for example, more of the results get nasty. So scavenging is not reliable, but it's often your only option, and it gives you a chance at getting the things you need. So we rolled right in the middle. That's 3 wood. So that's brilliant. That will get us quite close to our goal. So the scavenge partially succeeds, I guess, and we get 1, 2, 3 wood. Very cool. That was our step 3 action. Let us proceed to step 4 logistics. Oh, that's right. We don't need to do any logistics. So that is the end of the round. And now we're on to the next round. Cross out a new round number. Roll this. Okay. That, using this as a D3, is a 2, which means that we have a town internal event. So the world intrudes represents people from outside coming and messing with your town. And town affairs represents stuff happening inside your town, goings on, sometimes weather, etc. So we're going to have something happen inside the town. So I'm excited about that. Let's see what it is. Okay, we got 5, to which we must add 7. That is 12. Alright, alright. A child stumbles upon a knot of delicious tubers growing behind the town center. Gain D6 minus 2 food. Cool, that is a bunch of free food. So we roll a D6. We subtract 2 from the result, and we got nothing. But, you know, them's the breaks. Cool, so that was the event. We got nothing food. And now we move on to economy. Food evens out. We got to feed them. We need 2 food to feed them, and we produce 2 food, so that's done. And then maybe we produce a people. Come on. No. No people. Bummer. Cool. So we're still on 4 people. I mean, arguably it's a good thing because we don't have to worry about how to feed more people. So that was the economy step. Now we're on to action. We're still 2 wood away from our lumber mill, and I'm really keen on getting a lumber mill, so I'm going to push for some more wood. So I'm going to roll another scavenge wood and see what happens. Ooh, 9. That is a very good roll. The scavenge table giveth, and the scavenge table taketh away. When you get a 9 on any resource attempt, instead of getting the thing you wanted, you find a gold piece. Now, gold is really, really valuable. It is the late game resource, and it's quite hard to get. So a gold is cool, but it's not what we need right now. So, you know, we'll take it. Let's grab a gold in there. And I'm just going to add a little marker to my tally so we can see if we get to 22 gold. Okay, so the scavenge got us a gold. That was action. Oops. Cool. Logistics, we can skip. End of the round. On to round 8. Let's see what happens event-wise. That's a 2, so that's a 1, so no event happens. Economy. We know what happens here. Skip food and see if we produce a person on 6. No person. On to action. We're gonna scavenge for wood again, because I'm really keen on wood. 8. Very nice. That's probably gonna get us there. Wood on 8 produces 4 wood. Fantastic. So you can see our town center is beginning to fill up, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're starting to fill up spaces. I mean, we're pretty close, actually. We only have 1 free space. And this is where early game Penciltown becomes quite a juggling game, because you don't have the swap space to move stuff around. But we do have a bunch of wood, which is great because it's going to let us build stuff soon. So that was a successful action. We scavenged well. Logistics, we're going to skip. And end of the round. On to round 9. Let's see what happens. That is a 3. That means internal events. So that is 11. I think, yes. That is 11 plus 9, which is 20. Cool. So we've got an internal 20. Let me look at the tables. Okay. This is a spicy one. One of your citizens vanishes during the night. Her journals tell of an insatiable lust to see the secluded spaces of the world. She leaves you with a parting gift. Lose P. Gain 10 wood. Oof. Owie. Ouch. That is really rough, because people are the limiting factor in early game. So we are down a P. And our tiny village only has 3 remaining. And we gain 10 wood, which is a bit of a backhanded gift because we can't put the wood anywhere. And we will now learn about the benefits of foresight. The fact that we were okay on food meant that I should probably have been throwing food away during previous logistics steps. But I didn't. So now we've just got these foods sitting here not doing much. And we're only going to be able to store 2 of the 10 wood we got. So that's a bummer. But, you know, that's the point of events. They keep things spicy. On to economy. Food does nothing, and I'm not even going to roll to gain the person, because even if we got the person, there would be no space to fit them. Cool. So that is economy, and on to action. So now at least we can spend some wood, and that is cool. The one other construction option I need to point out is, of course, the upgrade of the town center, because you see you get 5 more storage tiles when you upgrade to size 2. And that means this kind of problem is a lot less of a problem. So that costs 10 wood to upgrade to town center 2. And it produces people faster. Instead of on 6, it produces a person on 5 and 6. So that is another upgrade we really want to think about getting. But storing 10 wood in this very anemic structure is going to be tricky. That costs 10 wood, and we're currently on 9 wood. A reasonable strategy would be to throw some food away and save up to push for that 10 wood to get the town center upgraded. But I'm not going to do that because I really want to get that lumber mill out. So let's do the lumber mill. Okay. Let's think about where to put it. Oh, yes. The woods discount does apply to the lumber mill. So the size 1 lumber mill does not cost 5 wood, it costs 3 wood. As you can tell, I'm very good at this game. So don't I feel silly. Let's put it... I'm tempted to put it here, but that is not future-proof, because when we upgrade it later, the edge will stick out to this tile, and we want all the tiles on wood because that gives us a bonus. So in the interests of keeping it future-proof, I am going to build it here. So there'll be a pathway through there to build other stuff there if necessary, but that can grow because it's going to also include 1, 2, 3, 4 those tiles as well, ultimately, when it's been upgraded. So we number that 3, and we erase 3 wood. The benefit from building in wood is that you pay 2 wood less. So it wasn't actually a 5 wood cost, it was a 3 wood cost. I had forgotten that clearly. Cool. So we've got that dude down. Let me just walk through the rest of the construct checks. Yes. It all looks good. Okay. Of course, 1, 2, 3 people in the village, 1, 2, 3 buildings. We now can't build any more buildings until we attract a new person into the village. So that's a bummer, but fortunately upgrading a building doesn't cost another person. So we will be able to push for that town center too while we're stuck here on 3 people. The other thing I need to do after building is update the economy area. So what do we get from having built that lumber mill? Well, it would be 1 wood income, except that we managed to get all the tiles on woods terrain. So we get an extra wood production. So it's actually 2 flat permanent wood production. And that's really useful, right? Because now we have wood for days. Yeah. Cool. I think I am going to stop this video at this point. I will save this game, and if people want to see more, yeah, I can just continue right from this. I think that's a good idea. So I think this is hopefully not an unreasonable length. This is probably pushing 40 minutes at this point. But hopefully that gives you some idea of what the game starts to look like. This is still really early, I need to emphasize. Like, the game gets very elaborate in cool ways, not in daunting ways, I hope. I mean, it kind of depends on you, but you get a lot more options with what you can do with your action step. So hopefully it is evident how the systems can support something like that, and hopefully I will get time to play into those steps at some point. Cool. I hope you found this informative, and that you go forth with a manic pencil lust in your heart, seeking graphene from every orifice you can extract it from. I've been Andrew Backhouse, and cheers.